Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Joee Davis. And we're going to be discussing Joe's amazing novel, A Force to be Reckoned With. Available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a whole host of other places. But above all else, check out his personal site, joeericdavis.com, to gather everything that he has in store. And I mean everything, man, because Joe has a lot in store, people. You're going to find more information on him, on the book, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. One more time, that's joeericdavis.com. And I quickly want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that Joe was brought to us by one of the best publishing firms in the business. People you already know, talking about Author Reputation Press. So for my writers out there who have gone through their process and now you need help moving the book you just developed, well, you got to contact one of the best movers in the business, because ARP is just that. Head on over to authorreputationpress.com and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is going to help bring your creative vision to life. And listen, it is a true pleasure to have Joe here on the line. People, I have a question that I want to pose to all of you listening in right now. What does it take to truly escape the shadows of your past? I mean, it's a powerful question, and it's one worth pondering, because when you sit down and you read this gripping fictional narrative, you're going to realize that it follows a man battling his dark history to become the role model his son deserves. Now, as a murder investigation unravels, threatening to expose secrets he thought were buried, he must confront the consequences of his actions while fighting for redemption. This book has a powerful underlying message of sin, redemption, and how our past can catch up with us. Just because it happened previously does not mean it's been swept under the rug and will never come to the light of day. That is a powerful message and something truly to think about, because then it may, there's the caveat, it may have you thinking twice about some of the decisions you make today, because you never know what will happen tomorrow. This conversation is going to be so enlightening. This book is going to be so entertaining, but it's also going to help shift your perception on some of the actions you choose to take in your lives. Let's jump right in, man. I'm excited about this one. Joe, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine, Benji, and thank you for having me today.
Of course. Yeah, man, listen, we're looking forward to this discussion, Joe. You have done something special here, man, and something that is gripping to no end. Before we go into the book, start off by telling us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Well, I'm from Savannah, Georgia, and I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I've published a novel in 2018, Oh Happy Day, and I'm a happy grandfather of two, expecting a third grandchild on the way next month. I have two adult sons, and I just enjoy life and love writing.
Love that. Well, listen, man, congratulations on the beautiful family you surrounded yourself with, and congratulations on the continued growth of that family. What an amazing thing, man, and wishing you nothing but the best. As we now move forward, of course, A Force to be Reckoned With. Tell us a little bit more about your novel, Joe.
Well, A Force to be Reckoned With centers around a character, Jared Montgomery, who at 52 years old finally decides to confront his past. But his past has been filled with much adultery, much fornication. He's the cause of many marriages breaking up. He cannot seem to commit to any relationship. But one evening in church, the Holy Spirit comes over him and he feels called upon to change his life. And he does have a 24-year-old son who is a nurse, but he wants to live a better life before his 24-year-old son. And he also comes from a deceased father who committed much adultery. And his mother is still living. She's 76 years old, and she's discovering love. She never had love in her first marriage, but because her husband hurt her so much with adultery. Well, suddenly a series of murders begins to disrupt his peaceful community and his church. And it so happens that these murders are occurring with women, older women, who have once slept with his now deceased father, causing his mother great pain, and women who had slept with Jared himself during his time. And there is a huge investigation, but he's fighting for his life now because he wants to have a change of life, but he finds himself fighting for his life because of sins from the past, because he's not just a witness of the investigation, he becomes the main figure of the investigation.
Mm-hmm. You know, Joe, thank you very much for the synopsis. And listen, man, your book presents a lot of philosophical questions that we're going to dive down the rabbit hole and discuss in a little bit more detail. Before we go there, though, let's start off before anything else. Joe, what inspired you to write this novel?
Well, I'm a person who I pray a lot, and I believe that I'm led myself by the Holy Spirit. And that right after I completed Oh Happy Day, which is the name of my first novel, within less than 6 months, this novel came to me. And there was no one in particular or any human being or person that I knew that was going through this. But I did know and hear of and seen people, adult people when I was a kid with other women that was not their wives, and I knew their wives and their children. So it had always been in the back of my mind. But once I started writing, it came to the front of my mind right after my last novel, and I just went ahead and started writing it.
Yeah. Well, listen, you know, Joe, as I mentioned in my opening, as you have, of course, hinted towards, your book covers a lot, but one theme of which is redemption and atonement. Well, let's dive down that philosophical rabbit hole a little bit here, and let's now explore things from a grander perspective, okay? Because, of course, your book is centered around a very specific circumstance. But again, the concept of redemption and atonement is really where I want to go with next. Do you personally think, Joe, that true redemption is possible for someone with either a history like your main protagonist, Jared, or anybody else, or is it more about learning to live with one's mistakes?
I think that redemption is possible because I know that there's a forgiving God. People aren't going to forget what you have done, even if you're forgiven. It's not going to be forgotten because the one thing about life is that karma is real. And when you put sins out there, you may be forgiven, but you're still going to pay for those sins. Perhaps after that, then the slate is wiped clean. But that's the way I believe that. But I believe that redemption is very possible, that a person can improve. I believe that a person can change for the better. I believe that most people want to do better, but the spirit wars with the flesh. And that's an obstacle to overcome, but it is achievable.
Well, you know, tying to that previous one, but, you know, branching off from it, while you were writing about this protagonist with a shady past, and, you know, it's interesting because from a writing perspective, and I'm a filmmaker, so I'm always grappling with certain things like this as well, where you're contending with the duality of recognizing the flaws that any individual may have, in this instance, your main protagonist in Jared, and his decisions, like you mentioned, where, you know, the adultery that he committed with those other, you know, participating individuals led to a lot of marriages ending and a lot of hurt. But you're also following him because he's the main character. So from a reader's perspective, you can't hate the main character. You have to be able to find relatability and even some likability within him. Now, again, connects back to some philosophical questions that we can dive into here. I know or I believe rather, that must have been challenging for you to grapple with when you were writing it. Well, how did you ensure that your main character remained relatable and compelling despite his flaws?
Well, what I did was that when Jared is called on by the Holy Spirit to change his life and be a better man for the sake of his 24-year-old son, Debonair Adonis, Jared is walking as a deacon. He is asked to be a deacon, and he decides to accept the challenge of walking as a deacon, which he has to make some changes. And Jared is also a very devoted son to his 76-year-old mother. Mm-hmm. But there are adversaries on the deacon board who knows of Jared's past. And there are times when he's mercilessly aggravated, which gives him some sympathy, because I knew that he had to be empathetic with our audiences. And that is the way I have him perceived to the audience, that he's going through this great pain of being mistreated, and he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying not to commit adultery anymore. He's trying not to commit fornication anymore. He's trying to improve his life, because as a person gets older, things change in their life. They might have health ailments. Things just change. And men, just like women, have often been written about going through changes. Men go through changes too. And this is his change of life, that he's desperately trying to become a better man. He's desperately trying to be a better father figure for his 24-year-old son. Mm-hmm. He's very protective of both his son, because he raised his son alone. He's very protective of Debonair Adonis, and very protective of his 76-year-old mother, who has recently gotten engaged to a new relationship since her husband had passed. And now she's finally getting her prayers answered, because she'd always, Marva Montgomery, his mother, she'd always prayed for her husband to straighten up. But God answered, but not in the way she thought, because her husband passed. But another man, Mr. Nesbitt, does come along in her life. So Jared has all this going on, and all this that he's a part of, that gives him sympathy. That was how I ensured that he wasn't just seen as this philanderer and this homewrecker.
Mm-hmm. People, again, the book is called A Force to be Reckoned With by Joee Davis. It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's joeericdavis.com. Head on over there, pick up your copies today. You know, as we start to shift gears here and start to bring things to a close, Joe, you know, the overall theme that we've touched up on a number of times, I think is really the centerpiece to your novel. Obviously, it's layered and it's much more intricate than that, but that aspect is something that cannot be denied. Well, while you were writing this novel, I'm curious to know, how did the writing of this novel change your own perspective on redemption, forgiveness, and the complexities of human nature?
Well, in writing it, you know, when I write a book, I have to try to become the characters. That's mm-hmm. my way of writing it. While I'm writing it, the protagonist, the antagonist. And it does affect you personally after you complete the book, or certain sections of the book. And everyone, I think, has something. It doesn't necessarily have to be adultery or fornication, but they have something in their lives that need to be changed. A person may have a habit smoking cigarettes, and it's bad for them health, or a person may have a habit where he or she drinks too much. And I used to smoke cigarettes, and this also helped me with quitting smoking cigarettes. Mm-hmm. Because even in the book, Jared has an issue with cigarettes, where he's no longer smoking, but he's smoking the blue cigarettes. It helped me greatly to stop smoking cigarettes, because a person has to change, and they have to commit to it. I believe that God will help you change. I believe you do the best that you can do, and then God will do the rest. That's my personal belief, but that was also the way I wrote the book. And it did affect me personally. After the completion of the book, I quit smoking cigarettes.
There you have it. Well, listen, my final question here for you, continuing to pay it forward. So we understood what you were able to learn from this process. Well, if you could share one piece of advice with someone struggling to overcome their past, what would it be?
I would say first pray and ask the Holy Spirit for direction. But in praying, one has to believe. You have to solely believe it with your heart, your mind, with every fiber of your being, and it will work. I know that for a fact that when you pray, that God does answer prayers, not necessarily when you want him to or how you want him to, but he does answer prayers.
People, I'm telling you, man, there is so much happening here. You got to pick up your copies and learn from this amazing novel. Because I promise you, when you read between the lines, this book is much more than just an entertaining read. It has so much there to be grappled with and to really build from. So one last time, it's Joee Davis. The book is called A Force to be Reckoned With. It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's joeericdavis.com. Head on over there today, pick up copies, and understand why I said the things that I said. Joe, this has been a true pleasure, man, an absolute delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benji. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me.